There is no one else in the entire world that is going to appreciate and keep a value of your time and energy in the same way that you do. No one's going to prioritize you because they need to prioritize themselves. No one can work on behalf of you for you. When you start to think of your time and energy as currency, then you understand that, well, the things that I do in the way that I live my life is just as if I were a millionaire. I spend my time and energy as if I would currency and spend it frivolously. When you start to associate it with currency, you notice that, especially in work settings or when you associate work, you only associate it with the only time of your week in which you should be proactive or productive or be attentive and aware. When your body starts moving because you must, and then you set a pattern for yourself, which means that on the 2 days that you do have off, you don't do anything. You in fact do the opposite. You need to relax, right? To get rid of all of the days that were you were constantly aware and productive. And because of that pattern, it then sets you aback into the mindset of, oh, I am so unproductive. I don't do anything with my life. Or these certain thought patterns and methods and behaviors that degrade yourself and neglect yourself because of the way that you spend your time and energy. I'm not telling you to change your behaviors and habits, but when you start to get into this pattern that we all usually get into, you then become passive avoidant of your priorities and of your future. Because at all times of the day, when you don't prioritize your time and energy, you are automatically put into the category of passive avoidant. Now, I don't know if that's a real word, but that's the word that I think best explains what I'm trying to explain. Passive avoidant to me just means that you are passively, which is being not productive or proactive in your life about your time and energy, and in fact avoiding it because of the energy that you feel drained of because of everything else that you have accumulated in the week. If your schedule is busy nonstop, let's say you work 6 days out of the week, and unfortunately your one and only day, you are extremely exhausted or extremely tired, or any time that you do have off of work, you're emotionally and physically and mentally drained, no matter how many days off you have. And that's because of one thing, because you are not understanding that your time is currency, which would mean you should be saving it, right? The best thing that we could do with our time and energy is to save it, invest it, do the same things that we would do as we would do with currency. And unfortunately, because you are being passive avoidant, you belittle yourself, your mindset, and your behaviors, and you criticize, you self-impose on your ideals and have a negative self-mindset about the things that you think. Now, how do you get out of being passive avoidant? How do you start to prioritize and reinvest and save your time and energy aside from work? Because we all have to work. It's to honestly be more present in the moment, to honestly focus on your time and energy in the moment. That's not to say that you shouldn't be having fun. That's not to say that you should not be watching TV or doing things that you love, but you should set a limit on the amount of time that you spend in it. You shouldn't be spending 4 hours or 6 hours spending like a whole work shift on just relaxing and doing nothing but vacation style living. And that's because there are so many hours in a day, but only so much of it. If you think about your day in quarters or in shifts, like how they reference companies when they do anything that's in high management material, section off your time in quarters or days or seasons, as I would like to reference it. And I usually do it by 2 hours, setting yourself a limit of 2 hours. And if you think about it, back then when you did have that structure of parenting, the people that when you were parented or having structure in general as a child, you notice that because you only have or had a limited amount of time, let's say 2 hours, to do a certain thing that you actually truly enjoyed, not only did you appreciate it more, but you wanted to do it again. We burn ourselves out on the vacation process because all we know is that we should be doing things that we like or enjoy, taking vacation, aside from the time that we need to work from. And when you start to do that, not only do you restructure the patterns that you have been in for so long, but you also start to understand how much time that you have in a day. You only have 12 hours, but if you work in a productive or time management way, you actually have a lot of time to do a lot of things. A lot of things. You could even separate it by half days, from 6 to 12, 12 to 6, where you get to spend half the day doing something you enjoy and doing the others where you do something productive. I know from a lot of people that you work very hard, and that's a great asset. That's wonderful. But do you work hard for yourself? Do you work hard for the things that you want in life? Or do you just use the extra time that you have off from work, your time and energy, to be unproductive? And then all you want to do is be unproductive. By starting these healthy habits of managing your time in a better way, in a better sense, in a better mindset, you will start to affect your behaviors and actions in a positive way. I understand that it's not easy. I understand that it's not going to be something that you could just do in a short amount of time. But if you were just to spend, let's say, 2 hours a day, if you even have that much time, free time, instead of scrolling on Instagram or using dopamine to relieve you of some stress, or using any other way that you would get dopamine, you have that same amount of time and energy, but you didn't squander it. You didn't use it for bad purposes. Instead, you could be using it for good purposes. And this is something that we have learned to do from childhood. Because we're taught in school, we're given breaks, right? The structure was there for us, where we had 1 hour for lunch or an hour for playtime, or we structured a certain amount of time throughout the day to learn lots of things. And I'm sure that that was very easy and manageable. But as adults, we lose that structure. And because of that, we then think of ourselves as unproductive. Or we criticize ourselves because of that lack of structure that we used to have. It's like, oh, things were better back in the old days. The old days were only better because someone else was managing your time and not you. Now you have all the free time in the world, and there's no one and nothing to tell you that you can't do this and you can't do that. So by taking back your time and energy, the way to do that is by restructuring yourself, restructuring your schedule, your week, the amount of time that you do things. Let's be honest, you don't need 4 hours of TV to watch. You don't need to watch a marathon of movies every time that you get your only day off. Excuse me. There have been many cases in people that I know that use the time that they have off and know that they have bigger priorities, but still choose to play games or watch TV because it's easier. It's easier than having to stress about real life, and it's easier to just not think about it until it's needed to think about. And that's what shoots us in the foot. That's what hurts us, honestly. And yeah, I hope that you were able to get some sort of information from this, and that you are able to start restructuring yourself. I can't tell you what it looks like, but I can tell you that the amount of time that you do spend, no matter how much it is not necessary. In fact, I think there was I think either a study or a poll or something like that, where it says that the human body does not need a break more than it needs, or more than it thinks it needs. In fact, only spending 10 to 20 minutes after doing a long and strenuous physical exercise or strenuous task, only 10 to 20 minutes would you need in order to feel at full fidelity again. But it's only because once we start getting to the pattern of 10 to 20 minutes, we're still doing that thing that we enjoy, and then it prolongs into an hour, into 2 hours, into 3 hours, into however long that you decide to spend at that. And then we feel the void. not only do we feel the void, but we feel the void of ourself, because we're like, oh, there's nothing to do. Life is so boring. I'm so bored. But it's only because you have not filled up your time in the way that you should, which is by structure. And when you start to restructure your time and energy, you start to restructure your mind. Yeah. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe, like it, leave a like, and this is just for clarity. My name is Augustin. Thank you so much for being here.